Hi there. I was recently back on the East Coast in New York visiting family. First stop was at my mom's. And I was last home around the holidays, and my mom had a new kitten. His name is Steve. Hilarious cat name. That's a different story. And at the time, at the holidays, Steve was this little cute, sweet little kitten who liked to nuzzle up on your chest and sit on your shoulder or sit on your lap and burrow in and go to sleep and purr. And he was just very sweet and cuddly and this cute little thing. And also playful and a little bit attacky and very kitten like, but very sweet and cuddly. And so I come back a few months later, maybe 5 or 6 months later, and Steve is now a full cat size, like 10, 11-pound cat. Very much still kitten-like and sort of in his rambunctious adolescent phase. Lots of energy, needs a lot of play, a lot of stimulation, can come across as being almost aggressive, but actually still very, very sweet, very cuddly, very people focused. And also, this is an incredibly smart cat. And some of the things that I observed with this was one for me, because there had been all of this time, this space in between kitten Steve and more full-size cat Steve. It was just very apparent to me that I needed to relate to him from a different place. I had been away, so I was able to see this. It was also clear for me to see the different ways that he was relating to his environment and also to my mom. And this just makes me think of that humans, we can go through these rapid phase changes as well. It can be internal, sometimes it can be external changes, but the internal ones, especially, can be really tricky to navigate understanding yourself, the changes within yourself, how to relate to your environment, and also people who might still want to relate to you from an old place, an old version of you, old pictures of you. And my mom, understandably, she's in her late 70s, she's an older woman, missed the sweet, cuddly, easier, cozy kitten Steve. And she was kind of struggling with the more rambunctious, playful, stronger version of the cat. But what I noticed as I spent a little bit of time with him was that some of those core traits were still there. He's very sweet, very people focused, and would sometimes come up to snuggle, would sometimes come up to sit on your lap, would sometimes come up to sleep next to you. The same core at his being, but also a very different presentation. And it's not that there was nothing wrong. He's not a bad cat. He wasn't doing anything wrong. My mom wasn't doing anything wrong. But it was just his needs shifted, he grew, and he's in a different phase and expression of who he is. And it was interesting to see as well as I shifted all my perspective of him. I could see my mom starting to see and shift her perspective and how she related to him as well. And almost like an opening up of the permission for him to be who he is. And introducing things like going out onto the balcony and staring at the birds and chasing bugs and stuff like that, that were a new activity for him and introduced a new way for the two of them to relate together. And this just makes me think of when we have this experience as people. You might go through, and I think that this is something that I'm witnessing it in both inside myself, but in many, many people that I am observing in the world around me right now. You might be going through some rapid changes inside, things that you might be able to articulate and identify how you're shifting and growing. You might not be able to logically, analytically from the mind give a clear description of it. It might just be a felt sense or a knowing that you are growing, that you are changing, that you are still core you at your being, maybe even more you than you've ever been. But there are some fundamental pieces of you that just feel different too. And how do you questions of how do you relate to the world and your environment from this new place or from this different place, especially when you're not quite exactly sure what it is? And also tricky, how do the people that you're used to interacting with in your environment, how do they interact and relate to you? Are they struggling with seeing, with meeting this newer version of you? Do they still hold an old picture or expect old dynamics or old habits or anything like that to be the same? And I know really clearly identify, or I can remember really feeling like this when I first started my clairvoyant training. That puts you through so much rapid internal change that it can be kind of hard to like wrap your fingers around and grasp. And as you're shifting, things like family, especially friendships, it can feel wonky as you want to meet them from who you are now. Do you find yourself sliding back to fit into an old version or an old picture to meet people from where they're comfortable with meeting you? How do you do that? I also know for me, every time I go back to New York, living on the West Coast now, there's big gaps in between, and I always go back feeling like it's always a transformational experience because I have transformed and shifted so much by the time I go back that it's this, like, re-meeting and rejigging of everything while I'm there with the people that I love, and it can be amazing and also bumpy and challenging. And how do you relate from this new space? Do you need to change? Do you need to change your environment? What needs to change your environment? Or is it things within you that you need to relate to your environment from a new place? To what degree? Are your wants and desires and things that you want to create or experience or have in your life different? This is something that I'm seeing a lot of people waking up to right now is that there's pieces as a collective, not everyone, but many people are growing and shifting rapidly and unearthing and excavating and getting more in touch with their true soul, their true heart, and assessing and looking around at the life that they've built and looking at it, is this reflective of me now? Is this life that I'm living in now? Is this container or all these different components of it? Do they align and fit with who I am and who I'm becoming and who I'm evolving into? And so there is no one clear answer. It's not cut and dry. It seldom is, and it can be really natural to want that clear certainty, to want to have the right answer, to want to have the person who can tell you the answer, or the coach who can have the six-step formula, or, like, looking back at my parents' generation, and this was what some of what I was conditioned to believe too. There was the formula for your life. If you were lucky, if you went to school and you got the job and you got the house and you got married and you had a family and then you retired. And if you're lucky, you retire someone somewhere nice. There was this there was this path. And that's not to say that that path is not right for someone or that people can't have it. But I think many people are starting to see you have the career, you do the things the right way, and there's still this question or new questions of, "Is this me? Is this what I want? Does this feel right? Does this make me feel alive?" In values, people are starting to come more in touch with values that feel aligned in their body, in their heart, in their soul. Values like freedom, sovereignty, generosity, peace, love, excitement, comfort. Like there's so many different values, and I think people are starting to see they want a life that feels aligned with their values, and even starting to become more aware of what your values are. What do you truly value versus what has been put on a platter before you as what you should value? And so change is abundant in the world around us and inside. And it's no secret that the outer world is shifting rapidly as well. There's there is a crumbling of things that are happening, a crumbling of economic systems, of political systems, of governmental changes. Um, we're in an era of rapid dissolution and change. And I see and I truly believe that it is for the better to create and seed a world that is actually more authentic to true soul and heart values and desires, rather than something that has been presented to you as the path and as what you should want and should have. And so providing some validation that if you are finding yourself in this space of questioning a lot of things, feeling like there's a mismatch between who you're becoming, who you are right now, the world around you, the day-to-day experiences, the life you've built, the people, even just some of your habits, your patterns, the things that you do during the day, your thoughts, you might be in exactly the right place. And it's natural and healthy to have these questions, but you also don't want to just get stuck living in the questions. And for the world around us as well, we had in North America last weekend, we had one of the biggest solar flares, or someone told me the biggest solar flare to ever hit the planet. And I feel I'm very sensitive in my body, in my spirit, and I can feel on a physical level the solar flares. And I see the solar flares as like an encouragement of the evolution. They help purge some lower density vibrations. The planet is evolving to be of a higher vibration and frequency. And you might ask, what does that mean? And that means allowing for more of the things that feel true and alive in your heart, some of these values that I've just gone through. And even with if you follow astrology, and I love following the astrology, but there's also so much to it that I can't keep track of everything. But what I see with that is the astrology is shifting so rapidly and encouraging so much rapid internal change and growth within the humans. And is the astrology encouraging the growth? Or is it just reflective of this cosmic oneness and reflecting the growth and the shifting that's happening within humanity and our consciousness? And so, where do you turn? Where do you find your answers? Where do you find your next steps? How do you know that you're on the right track? And there is no one place. There is no correct answer. And it's interesting how the same experience can be for two different people exactly right and misaligned. And the same experience for one person can even be depending on the lens with which you view it. And the timing in your life with which you experience it can be aligned and for your highest it's always for your highest good, but can be aligned and can feel nourishing and like, yes. And for the same person, it can also be a stifling or a no. And it can also depend on your perspective with which you take for it. And so the place that you look, the place that you have to turn, that we're being encouraged to turn is within. And so my mom's cat, Steve, he's a cat, so he doesn't have human consciousness and the analytical mind. He's lucky. He goes through these changes and he's just being a cat. He's being his beingness. He's doing what he does. Humans, it's a little bit more complicated. But part of it is that we're moving into the age of individuation. And so it's no longer a cookie cutter, this is the path, this is what you should do, looking outside to other people, looking to your guru, looking to your teacher, your coach to have the answers for you or to even be like them. It's to look within and to find what is true for you and what's true for you right now, because it might change tomorrow. But what is true for you in this moment? And what is your own it's becoming your own authority and starting to build into self-trust. And part of my visit home was also meeting my baby niece, who is just the most beautiful, beaming, bright baby. And I wonder what is looking at her, what is the world going to be? What world is she going to be growing up in? And who is she going to be? And what possibilities are there for her? And just, she's a baby, so it's all open in front of her. But for you as well, you are who you are in whatever age and phase of your life you're in. And you still have so much ahead of you that you can turn within and shift and find what are your own answers. And a place that you can go with this is really changing or just looking at what is something that you're clinging tightly to create a sense of safety or familiarity that you could just soften and let go of a little bit. And maybe this will be a companion meditation to this podcast. But we're all walking the steps of our life. You're walking the steps of your life and the steps of your path and finding yourself, whether it's an internal or something within the world around you, fork or threshold. And this is often a place where a lot of my clients come to me, whether they actually actively recognize that that's what they're looking for and where they are or not. It could be the internal change that is causing the fork and the threshold in front of you. You've shifted within, and now you're looking at your life and assessing, what do I do next? Is this right? How do I make this fit and feel more like me? It could be an external shift, um, a new job, a job loss, a new relationship, a divorce, losing a relationship, having children, children moving out of the house, even the midlife women's cyclical change, can be external changes that also cause internal changes. And it can be a sort of reciprocal feeding back and forth of both. And so finding yourself at these threshold points and evolution is exactly the right place. And it's okay to not know, but to start to train yourself to look within and start to find out what feels true for you. And what is something that you're gripping a little bit, afraid to let loosen the reins a little bit and let go of. And it doesn't mean you have to blow up your whole life. People often get afraid of that. Sometimes it might be something drastic, like someone moves to Bali and is living sort of a traveling life, and that is the next right step. Um, but sometimes it might actually just be shifting shifting the control, shifting the could be shifting a small external habit of like, oh, my body wants to do this. I'm going to start doing these classes, or oh, I really like this. I'm going to give myself more space and permission to do it. So change is abundant. It doesn't always feel good, but sometimes it can. And it is here for your evolution. And I wish you the best with connecting with and trusting yourself and finding more of your true self along this path. And I would love to hear from you what resonates with you from this. Be well.